Hi, everyone. This is Megan.
And this is Steven.
And this is the Synchrony podcast, where we talk about transforming apostolic dating culture and ending loneliness in the church.
Have you had a dream about you saying that yet?
I probably have started mumbling it in my sleep. Babe, this is our 52nd episode.
52nd episode.
An entire year's worth
Yep.
of episodes.
I think we've done 52 episodes in 54 weeks.
Which ain't bad.
That means we only missed 2, I think. I'm pretty sure I did that math right.
Yeah, 2, maybe 3. I feel like around the holidays it got shaky.
Yeah, I know we started the first week of February of 2024.
Oh, so yeah, we're not far off.
Yeah.
Wild.
A whole year.
It's been great.
Yeah.
But this is not a recap episode, so don't
not.
worry. We're not gonna talk about our whole year's worth of episodes in one fell swoop. We're here with, I would say, a very practical and important topic.
Okay.
For our gentlemen.
Ooh, targeted.
Yeah. I think it's going to be great. Guys, if you have ever Googled or YouTubed what do women want, or how to get women to date me, or what do I need to do to impress women, today is the day.
I feel like it's getting more replaced from Google to ChatGPT.
Yeah. We want the algorithm to notice this so that ChatGPT can start funneling this to you.
That's right.
Yeah. Dear OpenAI. We're going to save our announcements and our partnership for the end. And we're going to dive right in.
All right. Let's do it.
Okay. So here's the thing. I have talked at this point 52 years into a podcast and
years.
Sorry. It feels that way sometimes.
I was like, man, you are quite the cougar.
I'm imagining the meme of like the lady from Titanic, like, it's been 84 years. Like, some nights that's what it feels like. No, so we've been doing Synchrony work since July of 2023.
Yep.
And the majority of the people that I have met with, interviewed, gathered data from have been women.
Okay.
Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of apostolic women.
Yep.
Holy Ghost filled women.
Isn't that crazy to say out loud?
Yes. Looking for Holy Ghost filled apostolic men.
Yeah.
Wild.
I was saying crazy out loud of how many there are. Just like how many you've gotten the opportunities to talk to.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's the greatest honor of my life that I've gotten to sit with these women. I mean, they're incredible. But I've also been listening really hard to what hundreds of apostolic women have been saying they want in a mate.
Oh boy.
So if you are a man and you have ever wondered, what is it that women want? If women seem to be a mystery, I feel like this is a trope in our culture where they're like, women are mysterious and difficult to interpret. And I'm like, no, I don't think so.
I think difficult to interpret is not the right way to say it. It is difficult for men to comprehend.
I disagree. I think that
there's a learning curve.
Yeah, I think that men don't have the tools in their toolkit, right? And tonight,
that's what I mean. I mean, like, not that.
Yeah, it's not that they're incapable of comprehending.
Dumb. I'm just saying, like,
Steven's digging you guys into a hole on this one. I'm here for you. I want you to know, I'm on team men. Anyway, that sounded bad.
No, it's fine.
Okay. Anyway, what I want to share are the 3 things that come up most frequently in my conversations with women about what women are looking for.
Okay.
And these are, I would say, pretty much universal in terms of what women are seeking in partners. And to make it even more exciting, these 3 things are skills, which means that you can learn them. So they have nothing to do with your genetics.
Master them.
Master them. They have nothing to do with your size, your hair or lack thereof. They have nothing to do with talent.
Yep.
Or
athletic ability.
None of that. They have nothing to do with prowess, as you might be considering it in terms of what our culture says is important. They are 3 skills that any man can learn. And if you learn these and you master them and you're able to demonstrate them effectively, then I think that it's going to be hard pressed for you not to connect really well with women.
Yep, I agree.
All right. Are you ready?
I am ready. All right. You ready to start?
Yeah, let's do it.
What is their first skill?
Okay. So the first thing that women are looking for, specifically apostolic women, is servant leadership.
Ooh.
Okay. Have you heard that term before?
Yeah.
What's your perception of like what it means?
The first thing that comes to mind is like Pastor Kyle and Brother Sapp and my leaders growing up. Leadership is not only doing stuff behind a pulpit.
Mm-hmm.
It is being willing to do what is needed in the moment and not complaining about it.
Yeah.
You are asked to clean toilets. Sorry, I saw your face.
Sorry, we're laughing because of the way that Steven says toilet. Go ahead, babe. Tell the people. How do you pronounce toilet?
as soon as I said it, I was like, oh, man. Oh,
How do you say it? Now you got to say it for the people. Come on.
Get it together, Steven. I'm sorry.
I just want, here's the thing that's important for you to know. This is not the way Southern people talk. This is not the way people from South Florida talk. This is specifically the way Steven and his family talk.
Stop.
And I have never heard it pronounced this way.
Don't throw my family into that bus. I don't know if they do.
They are. It's a bus full of people who say the word wrong. I don't know what to tell you.
All right. I know how to spell toilet, but I, for some reason, say toilet.
Okay.
All right. So,
what were we even talking about?
servant leadership.
Right. Okay. Cleaning toilets.
Yeah.
That's what we got.
Yeah. Being willing to clean the toilet.
Yeah.
If that is what is needed in the moment, and not being expected to expect praise. You seeing a need and doing it. And so the toilet keeps on coming to mind because I remember it being said multiple times.
Yeah, and I love that because it's a great depiction of how servant leadership works in the congregation, right?
Yeah.
That leadership happens on the pew as much as it happens from the pulpit. I want to take it into the home.
Yeah.
In this conversation. When women talk about the man that they want to marry and what kind of a leader they want in their home, because guys, listen, I need you to understand everything you're hearing from the world about women not giving place to male headship is not what's in the church, right? And I've been invited to Facebook groups where apostolic men are ranting about apostolic women not respecting headship. And I just want you to know that in my experience, talking to hundreds and hundreds of women, that's not true. Apostolic women are hungry for biblical headship.
Biblical headship.
And biblical headship is based on servant leadership.
Yeah.
Love your wives as Christ loved the church. The picture that we have of Christ ministering to his people is him getting on his hands and knees and washing the dirty, filthy feet of his followers.
Yep.
Right? Christ loves the church sacrificially. Christ loves the church to the ends of his capacity, and he loves them by serving them.
Yeah.
Right? He guides them, he instructs them when needed, he corrects them, but before any of that, he serves them.
Yeah.
He heals without asking for money, for reward. His first miracles, when he did them, he told people, don't tell anybody. He does it.
Yeah.
He doesn't do it for recognition. He doesn't do it to be powerful, right?
Yeah.
The way that Jesus serves the church is through his love and his compassion that he pours out abundantly for them. Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. When women talk about the kind of man that they want to be, their spiritual leader, the head of their home, the priest of their family, they want someone who embodies that servant leadership. And here's the thing, guys, that you need to understand. Most women, especially apostolic single women who have a lot on their shoulders, like a lot of them are working really hard in the church. A lot of them are professional women that have worked really hard in school and work.
Yeah.
They're used to hard work. They're used to doing things themselves. They don't need someone who is ready to take over and tell them what to do. They don't need a boss.
Yeah.
And they also don't need someone to give them instructions about how to live their lives, in the sense of like, women aren't waiting for men to come tell them how to budget or how to, build make a home, right? Women have been, especially if they've been single past the point when they've expected to be, they've had to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
What they want is someone who comes in, and the metaphor I like to use is, did you ever have a team captain on one of your sports teams?
Absolutely.
Okay. Is the team captain the most important player on the team?
No. He or she usually is for morale.
So they're a critical person on the team.
They're
right?
critical. I wouldn't say the most important, but they are a very critical part of the team.
Let me frame it this way. They're not more valuable than any other given player, in the sense of the importance of what they're doing for the team.
Not necessarily, no.
Okay. Do they have different responsibilities than the rest of the team?
Yeah.
If I understand correctly, as someone who did not play sports, a team captain's role requires them to take on additional responsibility on behalf of the team.
Yeah.
And to help hold the team to a certain standard, and to demonstrate that by example.
I have a good example. Specifically with wrestling. I remember when we were doing workouts that were very difficult.
Yeah.
There is this one workout that we did where we had to hold weights in our hands.
Mm-hmm.
You could choose to hold dumbbells, or you could use a hold plates, and we would have to do stairs and go up and down stairs over and over again. And if you clanked your metal, or if you like clanked the metal on the stair handrail or on each other on themselves, it made the whole team do another lap, or the coach did. The team captain, or the people who at least looked to them as a team captain, was big on keeping people's mindsets in the right place to not give up, because if not, you're going to make the whole team suffer.
So, like, in other words, when the team was encountering challenges, the team captain was setting the direction for the team.
But they were also the ones that usually worked the hardest.
Yeah.
They were the ones that were setting the pace.
Carrying more weight.
Yeah. And if not, then they would stay back and stay next to the ones who were going the slowest and say, let's go, and push them. So it was important for the people who especially struggled with like determination and discipline.
Yeah. Families need captains.
Yeah.
Right. And I think biblical headship, when we look at the way that Paul describes, deacons, he doesn't say like men should be the only money makers. Husbands should be super powerful over their wives. Husbands should wield authority over their wives. He says, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church.
Yeah.
And he also talks about the characteristics of a godly husband as a leader in the church, right? He's gentle. He's slow to anger. He's not given to filthy lucre or drunkenness. He's the husband of one wife. He's faithful. He sets a good example.
Yeah.
Right? The things that I respect most about your position in our home are the fact that if our children watch you, they will understand what love looks like from the perspective of a man to a woman, right?
Yeah.
Like if our children pay attention to your example of how you interact with me and the words you use and how you serve me, then they'll have a good example in their minds of what a godly husband should look like. And what that means is that they're seeing you serve me. This is going to be an embarrassing episode because I'm going to talk about you a lot.
I'm like shaking my head and agreeing with you, but not in like, yes, that is what I do for you, but understanding the importance of kids be seeing that in a household.
Right. And I've only ever been married to you, so you're my example.
That I know of.
So far. Yeah. I'm just kidding. I hope we don't fall into a ditch or something because I'll get incriminated by that. His life insurance isn't that great.
Send help.
Yeah. So the point is, the point is, servant leadership looks like being a team captain. It looks like someone who's willing to sacrifice more to take weight off, right? Women are trained to do it all from the times we're young.
Yeah.
We are groomed to be mothers and career women and to do well in school and to run a home and run a job and run a life. And frankly, the standard that women are held to, just like the standards that men are held to in the world, are impossible.
Yeah.
And we've been sold this idea that we have to be making straight A's in every single area of life in order to do okay, right? To have a man come into your life and say, hey, I know you're capable of handling all this and managing all this, but I'm here to captain this family, and I'm here to take some of the weight off of you.
Yeah.
And I'm here to help make decisions when the decision making is really hard. And when there's a lot of confusion and we're not sure what the call should be, I'll make the call. It's a sacrificial position. It's not a dictatorial position.
Yeah. The going back to like the equally yoked.
Mm.
When you talk about a yoke, it's, most of y'all probably already know, but it's literally like a harness.
Yeah, for oxen.
For oxen that go on two different animals.
Mm-hmm.
If one animal is stronger, really a lot stronger than the other animal, or is not listening or bulldozing, it's going to either start dragging or start making the other one walk differently, to where they're not going to be going in a straight line. They're going to be messing up. And it's going to make the farmer have a lot more difficult time.
Right.
But
the master is going to have a harder time helping them stay in the right direction.
Exactly.
Yeah. If
you have two oxen that are going, and they could be different strengths, but if they're choosing to walk in tandem, walk side by side together and pull together, it makes the process so much more smooth.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I think that equally yoked was intended for like a spiritual example, but in terms of the physical, it's very, I think that's so important for a marriage, because I think that's a good example of how we're supposed to work together.
Yeah. And the thing about it is, like, I want guys to understand, based on hundreds of interviews with women are craving a leader, not because they are incapable of being good Christians and running their own lives.
A servant leader.
Yeah, but what I don't want men to hear is like, oh, women just want someone to come serve them. They just want a cabana boy or something. No, women are craving leadership. They want someone they can look up to because of that demonstration of Christ-like service.
Yeah.
Right? Women want someone who inspires a deeper faith, a deeper discipline, like you were talking about. Like when you're on a team, a sports team, the team captain should be someone that you aspire to be like, to a degree, right?
Yeah.
And that's in terms of, I assume, attitude and outlook and perseverance and skill.
And temper.
Yeah.
Sometimes, hopefully, they're the cool-headed person on the team.
Hopefully.
Not always. But I do want to actually say that as well. As a leader in the household, when you're talking about setting the example and being the one, like, being someone who is looked up to with their level of discipline, stuff like that. I don't want to set a false example that you have to be a perfect person.
Not at all.
And I think a big part of working in tandem with your wife is saying, hey, acknowledging your flaws, but being willing to communicate about it.
Yeah.
And having those communication skills to make you feel safe.
And knowing when, so like in a marriage, right, we have complementary strengths.
Yeah.
Right. I'll use this as an example because
sure,
you're here. I'm the better writer.
No. I can't even say toilet.
Yeah. I like writing.
Yeah.
I'm better at composition.
Yeah.
Right. You're the better problem solver most of the time. And yeah, about most things, you are able to be like, this is the simplest way to get this done. Like you'll be like, babe, like you're way overcomplicating this. Like we have different areas of strength, right? But when push comes to shove, if we're in a really complicated problem, I'm coming to you going like, does this make sense? Like, are we doing the right thing? And you'll sit with it and come back and say, yeah, I think this is the direction we should go. Or I don't think we should do this because of this.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not that you are making every single decision in isolation.
Yeah.
And it's not that you're having to do everything that I'm doing, but better.
Yeah.
It's you saying, it's like, you know, if you're a team captain on like a soccer team, right? You might be an incredible offensive player, right? But you're not a great goalie, perhaps. Like, you don't have to be excellent at playing each position on the team necessarily in order to be a team captain.
I mean, you need to be knowledgeable about each position.
You have to be knowledgeable.
Yeah.
You have to be respectful. But it's okay to acknowledge the strengths of a teammate and say, hey, you're better in this place. Why don't you make this play? Right?
Yeah.
It's the same with marriage, where as the head of our household, you know, there are places where I am going to do better work in some areas.
Absolutely.
But you don't, that doesn't threaten you.
Yeah.
And you're able to help direct our family and say, hey, like our decision to do what we're doing with our jobs, right? You were able to say, hey, like, it makes more sense for us right now for me to focus on ministry and revenue generation, and you to focus on getting our house to run and work effectively. It plays to our strengths.
Yeah.
So yeah, servant leadership is captaining a home with grace and humility and sacrifice. It's not, you know, it's not wielding authority unilaterally, and it's also not being subservient to your spouse.
I also want to make a point that, going back to the team captain analogy, it becomes a problem when the team captain's identity and his identity becomes being a team captain, because now his pride's on the line of whether he succeeds or fails.
Right.
And what I mean by that is, don't get me wrong, like, I want to be the leader of our household, but I'm not doing it for the sake of being a leader.
Yeah. Jesus never introduced himself as like, hello, I am a budding religious leader.
Yeah.
Here to sway multitudes into following me. Yeah.
In a marriage, we have to make decisions I have to make a decision sometimes that I have to come to you and say, hey, we need to talk about this. We need to make this decision together.
Yeah.
And recognizing that it's not always something that, like, I have to have the answer for.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's something that neither of us have the answer for, and we have to say, let's pray about it.
Right.
You know, let's fast about it. And so it's one of those, I think that sometimes I have seen people fall into the trap, men specifically fall into the trap that I have to have all the answers, or have a fear of becoming a husband as a result of, I'm not in the right place. I'm not completely in the right place spiritually. And that is kind of a sticking point of, like, moving forward in a relationship, because they're like, I'm not perfect with my sin. I'm not perfect with this. I'm not, I'm like, dude, like, don't get me wrong. You need to be moving forward in your relationship with God.
Right.
But it's not about being perfect, but it's about being willing to admit to where you are and be able to communicate and work through it together with someone.
Yeah. Servant leadership requires a lot of vulnerability and humility.
Yes.
Right. And those are things that have traditionally been stigmatized in our culture for men to have.
Especially for men. Right.
So what we're describing is countercultural. It's not something that the world has glorified. Right.
Yeah.
But even the business world recognizes this as something that's so important for organizations to function well. There's a great business author, Patrick Lencioni, that talks a lot about servant leadership. There's lots of other authors. I like his stuff. I think it's fun to read and it's important, and he's a Christian. But this concept of servant leadership makes teams, makes churches, makes families successful. And women are hungry to see that in the man that they marry. Women don't want someone that they can manipulate, or that they feel is subservient to them. They're not looking for that. And if you are reading into that, then that I promise you that's not what they're looking for. They're looking for someone that inspires them to serve better.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the first thing. I feel like we could have talked a whole episode just about that.
Oh,
But
sure.
servant leadership. If you don't know how to practice that, if you're not sure, go sit with your leadership. They will help teach you. The church is a great practice ground for this.
Yeah. And I think this in ministry, at least the ministry I was raised under,
Mm-hmm.
working under my pastor and associate pastor and youth pastor and stuff like that, they were big on talking about if you want to lead in the church,
Mm-hmm.
you need to start by serving in the church.
100%.
And I think like that's a universal kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
at least an apostolic doctrine,
Yeah.
Baseline. But I don't think a lot of people always apply that to the household.
No. Well, and guys, I want you to understand too, women are watching how you serve in church.
Yeah.
And they're watching to see if you're going to pick up trash or leave it on the floor. Those things stick out to them, right? We have a young minister in our church who at the end of every service, this is so cool. I don't know how he started doing this job, but he goes around to all the small trash cans in the sanctuary
Oh, yeah.
and gathers the trash to take it outside. And he's gathered a little gaggle of like
5
and
and
4-year-old boys.
Yeah.
I don't know how this started, but he has this little crew of boys that help him take out the trash, and they
Yeah.
think it is the coolest thing
They
ever.
are so excited about it.
They
yeah.
are pumped, and I want God to bless him for what he's sowing into them with that.
Yeah.
Because it's inspiring them to servant leadership.
Yeah.
If you do not have a job in your church, it doesn't have to be a big one. For years, my dad's biggest job in the church was before service, he would get to church early. He would wash out these water pitchers and fill them with water and wash glasses and take full pitchers and glasses of water to the platform for our pastor who was going to preach and our associate pastor who was going to read scripture every Sunday.
Yeah.
And he would make sure it got done if he wasn't there, right? It was not a big job,
But it was important.
It was important. And
Yeah.
he learned how to do it really well. He knew that our associate pastor liked hot water because he was a singer and he wanted his voice warm. And our pastor liked ice cold water, and he would make sure it was what they wanted and what they needed.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a big job. But if you are not working in the church right now, if you don't have a job or responsibilities that you're showing up and doing every week, please go find something that you can practice, because
Yeah.
it's not just going to help your marriage. It's going to change your life spiritually.
Yeah. So I I wish more churches had armor bearing programs.
Yeah.
Because that was a big part of like the core values of an armor bearer.
Mm-hmm.
So briefly, armor bearing at our church was a program where we served the ministry on the days that we had services,
Mm-hmm.
specifically because we were in an auditorium, we were in a school, we had to set up and tear down. So we didn't have normal setup processes for churches. So we were there for setup, we were there for tear down, we were there to make sure that pastor had his mints and his anointing oil and his water, and all the ministers had water. If we had guest ministers come in, which our pastor was over foreign missions for the state of Florida, so we had a lot of missionaries coming in, having to go and find out if there was anything they preferred while they preached.
Mm-hmm.
You'll be surprised. There's some unique preferences of like wanting Sprite put into a water bottle because they like preaching with Sprite instead of water. But they didn't want to have a Sprite on the pulpit kind of thing. Certain color men. So there's weird things that people enjoy, but there is a part of like learning what their preferences were and understanding their process that got us to rub shoulders with really what I would consider really powerful men.
Yeah.
In God, of course, and being able to have camaraderie with them.
Mm-hmm.
But that, I wish more churches had that. But I want to give a tidbit of information for men that don't know how to do this well or are aspiring to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Look around in your church and find the men that already do this naturally,
Mm-hmm.
or if they seem to do it naturally, and ask if you can learn from them or pay attention just what they do.
Right.
Because there are men in the church that are doing stuff that is inspiring and servantry that is a stepping stone to be able to learn how to do that.
And if you don't have men in your church, because some churches are low on men, go to one of the female saints in your church that you see working constantly
Yeah.
and ask her, I want to get involved. I want to serve. What can I take off your hands?
Yeah. How can I train my eyes to learn to see what is needed ahead of being asked to do it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways,
we're going to have to we're going to have to do a deeper dive on this later because there's so much here. But if you can master servant leadership, the church is your training ground. Go talk to your ministry about how to practice this. It will change your life and it will make you a much more attractive partner.
Yeah.
Okay. Ready for number 2?
Yeah.
I just want to warn you.
40 minutes in, number 2.
Well, some of that was the promo. We could spend an entire episode on each of these, so we're going to have to kind of move at a clip. Maybe this will end up being like a multi-parter. But anyway, the second skill is emotional intelligence.
That's a hard one.
Yeah. Emotional intelligence, some people call it EQ, which is like a play off of IQ, right? Not only is this one of the most important skills for a relationship, it's also one of the most sought after skills in hiring.
Yeah.
It's something that people are looking for new employees, for leaders, for teammates. This is something where if you master this skill, it's not just going to make you more successful in your relationships. It'll make you more successful at your job.
Yeah.
It'll definitely make you more successful in ministry. This is important. Emotional intelligence is being able to observe the words and behaviors of someone and intuit what that means about their emotional state. It's also an ability to reflect on your own behaviors and understand what that means about your emotional state.
Yeah.
If you were raised in a home where you didn't discuss emotions very often, or where people did a lot of hiding of their feelings or masking,
or gaslighting,
then this might be a very, very difficult skill for you to understand. If you struggle with, any kind of social challenge, this can manifest in a bunch of different ways. This might be a very difficult skill to just understand how people do it. But this is something that can be learned.
Yeah.
It is not some kind of mysterious gift or psychic ability that people have, right?
Yep.
Emotional intelligence comes from asking questions to understand how someone is feeling, right? Or trying to connect someone's behavior to what's going on internally, right?
Yep.
So it can be something as simple as noticing the things that someone does when they're frustrated, right? I saw a really funny, kind of stupid video on social media today where it was like, I can always tell when my husband is frustrated with me. And it showed this montage of the husband doing the same annoying thing to his wife, where he would come up and tickle her in the same spot, and that was his thing. Every time he walked by her, he would poke her, right? And he would walk by, and it was just this montage of him doing that. And then it showed at the end a video of him walking past her, reaching to get something in a cabinet and walking away and not poking her. And she was like, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
Right? So we can't do a whole course right now on understanding and unpacking human behavior, right? There are gajillions of resources on the internet to help you develop emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
Do you have any so you are particularly good at this? Gifted, I would say.
Maybe.
By necessity.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the piece of advice your mom gave you?
About
anger?
Yeah. Just breaking it down.
Well, so your mom gave you this piece of advice about understanding the root of someone's behavior. And I think this is one small tidbit, a really good example of how you can start to develop emotional intelligence, which really it's about understanding the root cause of someone's behavior.
Yeah, because a lot of emotions are just symptoms of the root cause of what is actually going on.
Right.
So when I was younger, my mom would, if I was angry about something, my mom would wait for me to calm down and have a conversation with me. Mm-hmm. And she says, hey, I see you're angry about something or frustrated about something. And we would kind of talk about it. And she goes, well, anger is a secondary emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And usually the root of it is either fear or hurt.
Mm.
Which one are you feeling right now? And it was so annoying as a preteen and a kid or a teenager, my mom trying to like psychoanalyze me. But it was such a good skill to say, oh, I'm feeling scared right now, that the way that that person responded to me is going to make them think differently of me, or or I'm hurt because what they said to me really hurt my feelings. Or it just whatever it may be, it helped me really understand where they were coming from and where I was coming from, and address it in that moment. Instead of being like, oh, I'm so angry at that person because what they said was so dumb, and like going down like the very shallow emotional route as a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of was a building block for a lot of things going forward in my life, was just that little like, anger is a secondary emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, you're feeling fear or hurt as a result, and that's why you're angry.
Right. So the way that this shows up in relationships, right, is women want a man who can see how, like, what they're doing, right? How she's moving, how she's talking, and intuit, this is what you probably need, right?
Yeah.
I will say no man is a mind reader. So women should adjust their expectations so that it's not like they're expecting guys to be able to just predict how they're feeling, right?
You've had struggles with that in the beginning parts of our marriage too.
Yeah, for sure. Because women sometimes are really trained to mask emotions, right?
Yeah.
And guys aren't necessarily trained to like, discern microscopically like what's going on.
Yeah.
But there are things that you can really cultivate with this that are valuable. So if you do this to me, right? If you see me come out of work and I'm just like dragging and I'm exhausted and I'm like, I'm grumpy, I'm short with you or the kids, you have this great sort of move to come to me and say like, what do you need from me right now? In a very gentle way. You don't have to know exactly what I'm feeling to recognize I'm not feeling my best. And you don't have to have an encyclopedic knowledge of knowing exactly what I need, right?
Asking is usually going to get you very far in a relationship.
Yeah, it's a much faster way to get to the goal. So you'll come to me and say like, hey, I see you're having a hard time, like, or like, seems like today was long or whatever. Sometimes it's just, hey, what do you need from me right now? Right? And you do it gently. You're not judgy about my emotions. You just ask how you can support me in whatever I'm feeling. And then I can usually kind of unpack what I'm feeling and figure out how you can help, right? That's emotional intelligence.
Also similar but different.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned to, and I think this is with your help, I didn't inherently know how to do this.
Mm-hmm.
When you are sometimes venting to me about something,
Mm-hmm.
or if you're really frustrated about something, not necessarily with me, but just in general, and you're trying to just unpack it.
Yeah.
Men sometimes have a hard time knowing what to do in that moment because we're inherently, you hear the term fixers.
Mm-hmm.
And I do this a lot. My first interaction with you as right before we started dating was basically me trying to fix your problem.
Yeah, if you haven't heard the story, I had a cold sore and Steven's like, have you tried lysine? Like, yeah. I would rather you
I did not sound that chivalrous.
I would rather you not point out the giant blister on my face, but thanks.
I still thought you were cute though, even with a giant blister on your face. You basically said to me, Steven, it's okay to ask, are you looking for a solution or do you just need someone to listen? Mm-hmm. And I started really trying to implement that when I'm starting to really feel the urge to try to answer your problem.
Yeah.
Because it gives me it gives me a break. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's nice when you just want someone to listen, because I'm racking my brain trying to see. I see you in pain. I see you angry. I see you frustrated. And I'm trying to find a suitable, good answer for that moment. Right. You're like, no. I just want someone to listen. I'm like, whoo, because I had nothing there.
Right. And sometimes emotional intelligence doesn't even have to go that far. It's
Yeah.
just an awareness
Yeah.
of what someone else is experiencing, right?
Yeah.
When you can tell that I am drained and exhausted, you do your best to keep the kids from overstimulating me, right? Sometimes we don't even have the space to have a conversation where you can really talk to me about what I'm feeling or whatever. You're just like, I'll go get the kids in the car. I'll meet you in the car in a few minutes.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
I remember one time the kids were just so much that night. They were loud. You were super overstimulated. And I just reached over, didn't say anything, and I just handed you my AirPods. I handed you my AirPods and I said, put on noise canceling.
yeah.
You didn't even play music, I don't think. I think you just
No,
put them
I
in
just
and
turned
just
off the
turned it
noise.
off because like you were like super frayed that night.
Yeah.
And I was just like, here you go.
Yeah. So the way you demonstrate this before you're married,
Yeah.
because this is something that guys need to cultivate before they start dating someone. This is something women need to be able to observe in men, is developing great listening skills.
Yeah. I heard someone say, there's a reason why God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth.
Right. And being willing to talk about emotions, right?
Yeah.
If you're having a conversation with a woman and she's talking about something that was difficult or interesting or whatever, it's okay to be like, man, that must have felt really hard, or
Yeah.
that must have felt incredible, right? Like, ask about her emotions. How did you feel when that happened, right? Ask about her emotions about you, right? Hey, I feel like this is going really well. Talking to you makes me really happy. What do you feel? How are you feeling about this?
Yeah.
Right?
I already know that there's men that are probably listening to this and they're dying on the inside.
Why do you think that is?
Because it is taught a lot, like not even necessarily out loud. It's kind of in the men's locker room, on sports teams, on movies, in just friend groups that emotions are for women.
Yeah.
And that is toxic masculinity that is basically saying, hey, shove your emotions down and man up and just push through them.
Yeah.
And I'm basically here to say that that is baloney.
Yeah.
Because if you ever want to have a successful, fruitful marriage, you have to learn how to break down your emotions.
Yeah.
At least at some beginner level, and start at least being open to the idea of talking about them. Because if you don't, you are setting yourself up for divorce or a very, very unsuccessful marriage.
I've talked to people who have unfortunately gone through a divorce, right? And they'll say things like, we became roommates.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't talk to me.
Yep.
He wouldn't tell me what was going on. And I found out, a couple years later, he was having an affair. But I never even knew he was unhappy in our marriage.
Yeah.
Right? It's heartbreaking because these people started out loving each other. And, it's impossible to say where this started, right? Where these things start to break down, across the board, because it's every case is different. But if you are a man who can come to the woman you love and say, hey, something that you did hurt me, and I'm not feeling okay about this. Like, this has frustrated me. If you can describe your own emotions in a clear way, and this leads into the next skill that we're going to talk about, but being able to articulate what's going on inside of you is so important. And doing that in a way that's calm, right? And that's not manipulative, right? Not like, and that uses me language, right? So you're not coming to the woman you're with and saying like, you made me angry, right? Or you made me, mad, and I made this choice because you made me mad. It's, this thing happened.
No, I am angry,
right?
And in fear or hurt because something you said made me feel these feelings, and I recognize blank.
Well, I would even reframe it. Not something you did made me feel this. I would even say like, you did this thing. I feel hurt. Like,
Yeah.
I am feeling this
Yeah.
and I don't want to be, you know, like I want to get out of this. Like, how do we heal from here? Right.
Yeah.
Like, you're responsible for your own emotions. Women don't want to be made to feel as if they have to walk on eggshells because anything that they do wrong is going to send you into an emotional, you know, either an emotional shutdown or an emotional landslide.
Yeah.
So you can, a part of emotional intelligence is being capable of taking responsibility for your emotions. Like,
Yeah.
you did something and I'm choosing to feel frustrated about it because it wasn't fair.
Yeah.
Right. We've had conversations like that before where it's like, you did this thing and I'm choosing to feel upset with you about it right now. And I'm choosing, I think I've said these words to you, like, I'm choosing to be a little angry at this moment because I need you to understand how much this frustrated me.
Yeah.
So emotional intelligence, being able to interpret the behavior of other people and understand what their emotions are,
Yeah.
being able to analyze your own behavior and emotions and articulate them clearly.
Yeah. Give the person the benefit of the doubt, because there's a very accusatory mindset that usually comes up whenever you feel hurt to protect yourself. And so what ends up happening is just like it's like it's me versus you, and that should not be the case. We are working on this together. Give the person grace to be able to say their feelings without feeling attacked. And this is one that my mom really ingrained in me. Be teachable. Because a lot of us are not, I say a lot of us as in men, we're not inherently taught. Society doesn't help teach us this as men. It's not encouraged to be vulnerable and talk about our emotions. So if you don't know how to, it's okay to admit that you don't know how to do that well, but being willing to say, okay, I'm going to be vulnerable and be willing to learn.
Yeah.
And let your guard down and learn how to say, I'm sorry, you know, whatever the maybe,
right.
and get through and learn how to communicate those ways.
Go sit with men who are open with their emotions in your church. There are, I mean, you know, I can think of a handful of pillars of our church communities, the churches we went through. Brother Buck is coming to my mind.
Oh,
right?
I love Buck. Yeah.
Who was such a pillar of his church, still is. He's with us.
Yeah.
Is a pillar of his church, but is so open with his emotions.
Yeah, he's
and
very
so
vulnerable.
Communicative about it in a way that makes him seem so strong.
Yeah. I aspire to be like him.
Yeah. So find a great example of someone who's doing this well. I would also encourage you guys, if you have the opportunity, go sit with a counselor. I'm not saying you have to start going to therapy like it's a hobby.
Yeah.
But taking, you know, paying for a session or two with an apostolic counselor or a Christian counselor and saying, hey, I want to learn to communicate better about my emotions so I can have healthy relationships. If this is something that scares you or that makes you feel really uncomfortable, they will help you unpack why.
Yeah.
And it's going to pay dividends in your future relationships.
Your church relationships, your family relationships, it's going to help
job.
Your job. It's going to help you set boundaries, because the boundaries is a whole nother conversation, but we're not going to get there.
Yeah. Okay. So what we've covered so far.
Sorry, guys.
There's so many tangents. I wasn't prepared enough for how many tangents we could go down. Okay. So servant leadership, emotional intelligence.
We're at an hour.
Okay. The last one is something that we've touched on throughout all of these, but it's clear communication skills. And what I'm specifically talking about here are verbal communication skills.
Yeah.
Being able to say difficult things out loud, clearly.
Yeah.
Right? I want to put this in context of like, I think there are a couple of like sub skills here, right? There's learning how to ask for the right information from someone, elicitation. Hey, how was your day today? What was it about it that was challenging? Or what did you find out today what did you learn today that was new? Right?
Yeah.
Learning to ask great questions and then listen for what the person says. Asking questions just so you can respond to the question you just asked, by the way, is a terrible move for creating connection.
Yeah.
Ask questions because you're interested in what they say and then listen.
Yeah.
So asking important questions is half of this skill. And the other half is clearly stating things even when they're challenging that are true and honest and direct, right? Can we be a little bit spicy about this?
Sure.
Okay. Gentlemen, if you expect to have a great sex life when you get married and you don't want to communicate with your wife, you are not going to have a great sex life when you get married. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
If you can't talk to someone, if you can't ask about someone's preferences, about someone's comfort levels, about someone's emotions,
Yeah.
in the most vulnerable settings possible, it ain't gonna work out great.
Yeah.
Because when you no movie soundtrack comes into play in the background to help make everything go perfectly.
Yeah.
You have to ask questions.
Well, I mean, it comes down because a lot of people think sex is just physical.
Mm-hmm.
Sex is also very mental.
Yeah, for women, it's mostly mental.
I'm saying, I didn't want to blanket statement for women, but for women, it's mental sometimes, maybe. And so if your wife doesn't feel like you are being vulnerable and transparent,
mm-hmm.
there is not psychological safety.
Yeah.
And which then can create barriers in your sex life.
Yeah, I mean, and women...
When I say safe, I mean, I'm not she's worried you're going to hurt her, but in the sense of there won't be the level of transparency for your sex life to be really, truly fulfilling.
You can't create trust.
Yes.
So clear communication is what leads people to be able to have honest conversations.
Yeah.
You can't have transparency without clear communication, right? When we talk about things that cause relationships to break down, it usually starts with some kind of betrayal of trust, right? Or some kind of lack of trust or safety,
mm-hmm.
where I feel like I'm not able to reassure myself that you are who you say you are, right?
Yeah.
You can't cultivate trust without clear communication. You can't work effectively as a team without clear communication.
Yeah.
If you're playing, I've watched you play softball, right?
I'm sorry, I'm kind of obnoxious.
On the softball field?
Yeah, because I value communication way too much.
Yeah, I mean, you're always, but you talk to me about how okay, if you're playing outfield with someone, you can't both run toward the ball and not talk about who's going to catch it.
Yeah.
Without the risk of busting your heads open on each other.
Yeah, that's baseball 101.
Right. You have to be able to say, hey, I'm covering this. All
right, got it. Yeah.
Yeah. The same thing has to happen in a relationship, right? I have to be confident that when push comes to shove, I can say, hey, this is your job. I'm going to go do this part and we're going to be a team. You're going to be like, yeah, cool. And we're going to have a shared understanding of what that means, right? The Tower of Babel could not be built because communication broke down. It's as core as that.
Yeah.
So you need to be able to communicate. You need to be able to communicate about things that are hard and difficult and emotional in an open and vulnerable way. And this is another one of those skills, really all of these skills, if you master them, you're also going to get promoted in your job maybe, or
oh, sure.
These are core success criteria for any kind of human interaction. The way that this is demonstrated early, right, in a relationship is you're asking really great questions. You're curious about what this person is like, and you're asking questions to learn more about them. Women have told me over and over again that they'll start talking to someone that they meet online or that they meet at a conference, and it doesn't go anywhere because they get the, hey, good morning, how are you? And then they say, oh, I'm okay, how are you? Good. And then the guy asks no more questions about them. He doesn't demonstrate that he's curious about them at all. He doesn't know how to stimulate the conversation, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to do magic here saying what are you curious about that I can answer, right? Hey, I'd like to talk to you about some more serious stuff. What are some things that you haven't asked me yet that you really want to know?
Yeah.
You don't have to, there's no magic here, right? It's not well, let me figure out what the magical questions are that I need to ask this woman in order to make her feel like she can trust me. Just ask what she wants to know.
Yeah.
It's providing framework to your communication so that someone doesn't have to guess at your intentions.
Yes.
Right. So saying, hey, instead of just being walking up to someone you just met and being like, how many kids do you want?
Yeah,
Right?
sure.
That feels weird and kind of awkward, but saying, hey, you're really interesting. Do you mind if I ask you a more direct question about your plans for the
Yeah.
future? Right? It gives me a sense of what their motivations are.
Yeah.
Right?
There's a difference between transparency and good communication and like being forward.
Yeah, or being blunt.
Yeah.
And it's helpful to sometimes unpack your motivations for someone. Like if you're meeting someone for the first time and you see something about them that you really like, you can say like, wow, cool shoes, and walk away. Or you can say, hey, do you mind? I saw your shoes and I thought they were really awesome. Right? I'm interpreting my own, like I'm narrating my own thoughts. Like, can I ask where you got them?
Yeah.
Right? And it gives people a sense of, oh, I understand why. I understand your motivations here.
Context.
Right. And it provides that sense of safety. Deeper in a relationship, saying things like, hey, I need to tell you something that bothered me. And I'm not telling you this to make you feel bad. I just want you to understand what I felt. Right. I explain my motivations for why I'm doing something. Right.
Yeah.
If you have to, this is something that you're going to use at work. If you have to go to a coworker and say, hey, I need to tell you about something you did earlier today that really didn't meet my expectations. And I'm not telling you this because I want to make you feel bad, but you're a really valuable member of my team and I really want you to be successful. That's more powerful feedback than, hey, you dropped a ball on this.
Yeah.
Right?
Those are they're technically saying the same thing,
Very different
but
ways.
very different ways.
So guys, the way to practice this, right? Start explaining why you're asking something. Start explaining why you're pointing something out, right? And if it's like, hey, do you mind if I give you a pointer about how to do that? I've had a lot of experience with that, right?
Yeah.
Or, hey, there's a place that I'm really interested in taking you to because it's special to me. Do you mind if I show you? Start narrating your reasons for why you want to say something to women. It's massively attractive because it lets them know this person is going to like, I'm going to be able to understand the why behind this, right? Yeah. If you're on a date with a woman and you're like, I'm going to take you to this cool place that I know, right? That feels like you've taken the control and safety completely out of their hands. They don't have a say in it, right? Saying, hey, there's this place that's really special to me that I'd like to show you. Is that cool? That's vulnerability, right?
Yeah. I'm laughing because our first like long date,
Huh.
I took you at a whole tour around like my childhood like city.
Yeah.
It was probably overwhelming. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there were points in that date where I was like, this man is talking a lot about his childhood, but I was invested.
Oh, sure.
But yeah, so basically there's a ton, again, like clear communication is something that people train people on, right? There are whole courses about communication. So I'm not going to try to provide a whole masterclass right here. Go seek out resources for this. An easy way to practice is to start saying why you're saying something or suggesting something. And this can happen over direct message or text too, right? Like, hey, I would really love to ask you some more questions about your work, right? Is it okay if I do that?
Yeah.
In Synchrony calls, we create this opportunity by when I'm introducing people, I say, in this conversation, we're going to give each other permission to ask very direct questions and give back very direct answers.
Yes.
Even doing something like that, if you're starting to talk to someone and you say, hey, can we give each other permission just to ask whatever we're curious about and get back really direct answers while we're talking today, just kind of like for fun?
Yeah.
It's creating a shared set of expectations, right? Here's what I'm expecting out of this conversation. Here's why I'm expecting that. Everyone feels safer when the expectations are clear.
Yep.
How many times have we talked on this podcast about mixed expectations being the major problem?
I can't even count.
Right.
At least 52 times. I also want to talk about specifically with men who are already, like I said, not trained to talk about their emotions very well. But there might be another factor that also makes it difficult. Specifically with ADHD, there is something called RSD that makes it very difficult to interpret parts of communication in your relationship.
Yeah, rejection sensitivity dysphoria.
Yeah, that's what RSD stands for. And basically what it is sometimes we overthink. I say we because I have ADHD and so does she. We sometimes read into something so much that we like are preemptively already feeling rejection about something that has not even happened.
We tend to anticipate the worst possible response to what we're saying.
Yeah.
So in other words, if someone said to me like, "Oh, is that your car?" Right? Instead of just thinking, "Oh, they're asking if that is the vehicle that I own," I think, "My God, they must think my car is ugly and dumb."
Yeah, or they saw the inside of my car and it's really dirty
and they're judging me.
And they're judging me. Yeah.
Right.
Like,
we leap to the worst conclusions about someone's communication sometimes.
Yeah, which it's difficult in the workplace. It's difficult with families. It's difficult, especially undiagnosed. Oh, like.
Yeah, because then what happens is someone asks you a simple question and you start trying to scramble to justify why you are the way that you are when that's not what they needed.
My whole childhood and
it's the story of my life.
Yeah, it like learning that I had ADHD and learning about RSD gave me so much peace of mind just to know I'm not broken necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, that's a whole nother story. So I just want to acknowledge that there are sometimes, and not just ADHD, there are other situations that people have.
Mm-hmm. Spicy brains.
Yeah, spicy brains that make a little, or other form of neurodivergence that makes it a little bit more difficult for communication.
Yeah.
But there are still ways to work through that and learn.
This is why it's so important to ask about the expectations.
Yes.
Because if someone can iterate to you what they're trying to get out of a conversation, you don't have to interpret it, right?
Yes. I think that's probably, I wasn't diagnosed with ADHD when we were dating, but your clear communication skills gave me so much, it like deleted my RSD.
Right. Well, because then the conversation is like, hey, is that your car? Well, it is. Why are you asking? Oh, I have the same car and I just thought it's cool that we drive the same vehicle.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
When I can get down to the motivation behind someone's communication.
Yes.
The landscape gets so much easier.
Oh yeah.
Right. So yeah, setting expectations like, hey, I want to ask you about your family. And I'm curious because I want to know if your family is like my family. And I want to know if you could see me being part of it, like how I would fit in. Right. You don't have to be coy or vague. I don't know where that became part of our worldly dating culture.
Yeah, vague questions.
Yeah, like you want to be inscrutable and mysterious. That is dumb.
Yeah.
Like, you know what's a lot better than being mysterious? Being married. One of our early Synchrony catchphrases that I was putting on social media that I need to bring back was transparency over mystery.
Yes.
Transparency over mystery all day, any day.
Yep.
It's just like whatever we've attached all these sexy, sultry connotations to being mysterious and coy, and that has bitten us over and over again.
Oh yeah. It just creates confusion and like clouded like expectations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think, I want to call out too that men, I think, have fewer media driven examples of relationship interactions than women do, in the sense that, like, they're not watching as many movies that are about relationships explicitly.
No, but there's a lot of media that's like bad advice about relationships though.
Right. So I'm not saying that every guy is into this, but I'm going to use an example that I feel like most Christian guys have probably come across, right? The relationship between Iron Man and Pepper as sure. Iterated in the MCU.
In the MCU, yeah.
Okay. How many Iron Man movies were there? 3?
3.
Okay.
I mean, he was in a lot of other movies, but I think there was 3 of the base ones.
Right. The entire first movie, everyone in the audience knows that they're in love, right? Everyone in the audience knows that they care about each other. Everyone knows.
Yeah.
Neither of them says anything or acts upon that or is clear about their emotions or intentions until like the very end or like the second movie. I don't even know if that relationship even blossoms in the first movie.
I don't remember.
Right. And that coyness, that mystery, or that will they, won't they, it's not true to life. It's a plot strategy for the movie to feel more interesting.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, let's be honest though. Like he probably had some sort of high level ASD.
Okay, we're not gonna pseudo psychologically analyze Iron Man. My point is that in hero stories where the romance plotline is the subplot, which is probably what most romance plot lines are that guys have been exposed to,
Sure.
right? Because they're not watching like Love Comes Softly most of the time. If you don't know what that is, then
Good for you.
yeah, congrats. You were not a woman who read a lot of Christian romance novels. So like those things are never like in a lot of those movies at that there's this romantic tension, and then at the end they like kiss and no one says anything, right? They just sort of fall into a relationship together without anybody ever saying the words. That does not happen in real life with real women.
No.
Real women want words, and it doesn't mean that you have to be able, like, the thing about that's really complicated is it seems like the guys in these movies just read the minds of these women and know now is the moment where I demonstrate some kind of affection, right? Usually after the world has been saved from some kind of cataclysm.
Yeah.
And whatever. In real life, you can just be like, hey, I really enjoy talking to you and I want to keep talking to you.
Yeah.
Right? Can I take you out sometime? Would you be interested in hanging out more?
And that sounds boring.
Boring's good.
But like that communication is a setup for great relationships.
Yeah.
I hate to keep on sound like a broken record. Like
right. Okay, guys, I'm so sorry because this was supposed to be a nice, pithy, quick episode, and instead I felt like we opened 3 massive cans of worms that we're gonna have to like scramble to get back in the can at some point over other episodes.
It is successfully scrambled.
Yeah.
It is not going back in the eggshell.
No. There are 3 skills that if you can practice them and seek out resources for them and cultivate in yourself, these skills are going to make you a better dating prospect. They're going to make you more attractive to women. They're going to make you better servants in the church. They're going to make you better people in your careers and in your families. I cannot stress enough how valuable and important these are to cultivate.
Yep.
Servant leadership, true Christ-like headship. Headship based in scripture, not in whatever Instagram preacher says. Scripture, right? Emotional intelligence, understanding what behaviors mean about someone's emotional state and understanding how your own emotions inform your behavior. And communication, being able to articulate clearly why you're saying something, being able to ask great questions, and being able to say hard things.
One last thing to add to the communication. That it was kind of a revelation for me, especially as someone who talked a lot as a kid. Communication is about 2 parties talking and listening to each other.
It's an exchange.
Sometimes communication can be interpreted as like, I am communicating with you, but if you turn off listening to them, you're not communicating. It's a one-way conversation. Sorry, last side nugget.
Yeah, that's true. You have to, part of communication is active listening.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's end this episode.
Yeah, I hope you hung out till the end for this because I think it's valuable.
Yeah.
Really quick before we go, I want to just shout out our partners at Cafe 117.
Woot woot.
We're grateful to them. These are an amazing apostolic couple who have built a very cool coffee business. If you go support them, their proceeds go to support other apostolic aid organizations and do a lot of good. They also make great coffee, premium blends, and single origin coffees. You can get them on subscription, and you get you a little discount at the link in our description.
Yep.
So go check that out. Announcements?
Yes, actually, we are going to South Florida.
We are. So we live in North Florida. Stephen is from South Florida.
Whoop.
And we are returning to our early relationship stomping grounds.
Yep, that's right.
To talk to singles.
We have actually been invited by the Sanctuary of the Palm Beaches, Pastor Daniel Kyle's church. And I believe that they're inviting some neighboring churches that might want to come to all of the singles from, I believe, 18 and up to come and show up and hang out with us.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about the data we have about loneliness and its impact on the church, strategies for addressing it. I think it's going to be a really valuable discussion. I'm really excited. I think people are going to come away feeling seen and with some tools to help take back to their churches.
Yeah.
So thank you so much to the Sanctuary of the Palm Beaches for.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, we're so excited to be down there with you all. And
I'll try my best to behave.
And if you live in the South Florida area and you want to come down, that's going to be on April the 5th, Saturday, April the 5th.
Yeah.
10 a.m. And we can put the information in the description
Yeah.
About where that's going to be. But we're really excited. It's going to be a good time, and we hope to see lots of you there.
That's right. All right. I love you.
I love you too.
Thank you for communicating with me.
Anytime. Thanks for listening.
Most of the time.
Most of the time.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye.